Thank you to all the attendees for joining us at the Knowledge at KPD Admissions 101 workshop series. As you've seen in our outreach email, we have Ms. Anju Singh from the University of Arizona, who's joining us today for the workshop session on the topic, is studying online out of line? I hope you can hear me, and I apologize if I'm a little bit low because I'm under a flu. But I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting session because many of you had informed when our outreach had gone back that they were interested. So really looking forward to this session. I know Ms. Anju Singh very well, and she's a good friend of mine. So the topic, as you know, as I've shared, is studying online out of line. We're going to have the first 20 to 25 minutes on the session topic, the next 20 to 25 minutes about Ms. Anju Singh's institution, the University of Arizona, and then of course the final 15 to 20 minutes on the Q&A section, which you'll be having questions for, and Ms. Anju would be more than happy to answer all your questions. As it's 5:35 now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over the stage as well as the microphone to Ms. Anju. And Ms. Anju, the microphone is all yours. Thank you once again for your kind time and support for joining us this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you are keeping well yourself. Thanks for joining us and thanks for the opportunity. I hope you will find this session really informative. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Let me know if you can see it. Is it visible?
Yes, Anju, I can see. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great, great.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Right, so as Kunal has explained, the topic is going online, out of line. The reason, of course, is because a lot of questions around online studies because the situation right now is very tough. We are going through very tough times. So most of the institutions now, considering the situation worldwide, are planning to float their courses online. So I think it's a very apt title for our presentation today. So just to give you an idea, I'll be covering, these pointers in our presentation. First of all, like why Indian students study abroad, what are the current challenges, what all options are available to you as students, advantages of starting your studies online. Then since I am from University of Arizona, a little bit introduction about the university, our popular programs. We have just launched our Arizona Global Campus, which is an option for the students to start their studies online. Eligibility criteria for various courses that we offer. We have huge and very, very great scholarship schemes. So I'll be talking a little bit about that. Our career development and student engagement cell, a bit about CPT, OPT, our employers, and then I'll be opening the forum for questions and answers. So first and foremost, of course, as you know, the total number of Indian students going abroad to pursue their higher education has been steadily increasing over the years. And I can very well vouch that this is definitely one of the best decisions a student can make, because this definitely, is going to be one of the most enriching and unforgettable experiences of your lives, as it is surely going to change you for better. Now, why so many Indian students are going out to study? That's the main question. I'm sure all of you are aware, but just to give you a little bit more insight into it, first of all, of course, the first reason I have seen is the ease of getting admissions. As you know, a lot of students here are interested in getting into their dream institutions like IITs, maybe IIMs, AIMS, etc. But due to limited seats and high cutoff the percentages, they are unable to get into these institutions. So they have to go with the second choices or backup options and things like that. Besides that, of course, there's huge demand, and on top of that, it's various entrances, examinations are there. Even if you don't get into this and then you wanted to get into the other institution, you have to sit with in various entrances examinations. Again, there's a lot of race towards getting into those institutions. So it makes everything so tough and so complicated when it comes to Indian institutions. But on the contrary, if you talk about undergraduate admissions at a highly ranked foreign schools, then it is perceived to be comparatively easier, and increasing number of students from India are choosing to take the big leap now. So it's mostly on the basis of your percentages, probably IELTS or SATs, in some cases, not even SAT scores. So you just apply and you get an offer letter, and it's totally your choice how to go about it. And most of the time it's online, so it's very quick. Second reason, of course, more study options. The way things are moving, everyone wants to study different courses, and they wanted to understand the different areas where they can have a career in. So a common concern about the Indian education system is that it's still offering academic institutions focusing only on delivering popular STEM courses, mostly science, technology, engineering, and mathematics courses. So it's very limited. A segment of Indian students who wish to take the road which is less traveled are constantly looking to advance their higher studies abroad, just because their desired program is not widely available in the country. Even if the course is available, the universities in India lack expertise in that or accreditation. So it's not very well recognized. Tomorrow, if you wanted to go out with that degree, maybe you might not have enough knowledge or accreditation to get accepted later. And again, on the other hand, most of the foreign universities offer courses in some of the most contemporary and unconventional fields, sometimes like astronomy, sports, entertainment, psychology, and things like that. So you have more options. The third reason could be a quality of education. So even though the standard of courses available across colleges in India is developing, there still seems to be a lack of opportunities for practical application of skills learned through conceptual understanding. And because of this, many students in India struggle to get job placements after graduation. So for example, many schools in the US hold a lot of weight when it comes to universal recognition or accreditation. There's also a strong culture of innovation and technology in the country. Whether you're studying healthcare or you're going for artificial intelligence or even finance, you'll find a lot of difference and a lot of learning over there. American universities also help foster much of the innovation and technology breakthroughs throughout the world through their research and development, and ever developing departments. So international students can benefit hugely from access to technology savvy labs and other research facilities that American universities offer. So this could be another reason for the students to choose to study abroad. And of course, why we are all wanting to learn, we are wanting to succeed in what we are doing to get a good career. So better job prospects is definitely another reason. So students who have chosen to study internationally are highly sought after by employers. Pursuing a degree overseas basically signals an employer that you have courage, you have more flexibility, you have more, cultural awareness, and probably understanding of how other people work and think. This experience, when you put it together, you will find it really handy while getting internships and job application, and of course, better salary packages. So all in all, better job prospects is another reason for students who are wanting to study abroad. When you are in an Indian institution, of course, you're very limited and mostly mingling up with the Indian students, but maybe from different cultures within the country or with the different states. But when we talk about the international exposure, students who study abroad develop a very well-informed mindset and maybe wider perspective towards other cultures and people when you study abroad. So whether you are studying sciences, whether you are studying political sciences, finances, or any other subject, being able to think from a multicultural perspective will help you face different challenges. And you may come up with very innovative solutions in the future. You will graduate with a richer set of experience that will basically allow you to think more openly and creatively. So as you learn to view the world through different lenses, you will also learn new things about your own country and culture too. So basically, studying abroad will here help you learn the new approaches to handle different situations, manage time between your studies, part-time jobs, sometimes when you go, experience international methods of instructions, and also dealing with cosmopolitan crowds and things like that. So this in turn also helps you to increase your acumen on the subject and life in general. So these skills would definitely be improving your life skills too. Hence, you will gain a global perspective through international exposure. A lot of students I have seen who are wanting to go and pursue their studies outside, especially in US as well, they look for better research opportunities. So the research opportunities that are available abroad are much better than the opportunities which are available in India. So there is more support, definitely better infrastructure, better labs, then funding options definitely are more and higher, and better prospects for students conducting their research abroad generally. Not only that, but certain subject specializations and programs are also not offered in India. Hence, students try to, go out to study or do carry on their research as well. So that is one other reason for you to choose to study abroad. Again, one option is definitely different education style. You have been studying in India, so you know how it is. So in the Indian education systems, even I have studied here, so I know the emphasis on the rote learning to remember concepts rather than understanding them. So we've been just mugging up and then writing exams most of the time. Whereas when we talk about institutions abroad, they engage students in active learning, normally through class participation. There are exchange of ideas, experiential learning, a lot of case studies, internships during your studies, even at undergrad level, and practical off and on campus experiences that basically make your learning more fun and meaningful. I think in addition, the flexibility to tailor your courses to your interest and the freedom to work on a part-time basis while studying adds to the overall appeal of earning a degree abroad. So that's a different education style, and most of the students tend to enjoy that and learn a lot through that. I think I have covered exploring other cultures, but what exactly I meant here was that you get an experience of a lifetime. When you go abroad to experience, or when you go abroad to study, experience doesn't end at the campus gates, During weekends, you go for holidays, you just travel to different countries, you'll have the chance to become basically a tourist and explore a country and meet people, then try different cuisines. So that's how you learn about different cultures. So that basically means that you will be able to experience geographies from India and come back with very interesting stories for your friends and family. You never know, you might end up finding an activity that you enjoy doing and maybe making a career out of it in the process. So this is, again, a very enriching experience which you would not have it in Indian institutions. Building a network of international friends. If you choose to study at one of the top universities, you will surely get a great mix of international communities. For example, I can talk about my institution. We have 120 different nationalities. Sometimes when you're sitting in a class, you might be having 40 to 50 different students from different countries sitting under one roof. So just imagine the kind of learning which is happening, the kind of friendship which would be developing during that class. So that is something which is really, really important. And at the end of the course, I think your aim should be to have at least 5 friends, good ones, across the globe, so that tomorrow if you're studying in US, if you go to Canada, you should be having a couple of contacts. If you go to UK, Australia, Europe, wherever. So it would be great. And one day if you wanted to start a business, you will already be having networks to initiate the business through those contacts. The last, definitely not the least, is the reason that it makes you definitely very, very independent. You know how Indian students are, or how Indian parents are, they pamper you a lot while you are with them. They definitely take care of you and are very protective about you. But there, once you go abroad, you might have to take most of your decisions, day-to-day decisions on your own, which in turn makes you more independent and self-reliant, like getting up on your own. At times you cook, you do your own laundry, you go for grocery shopping, and at the same time you manage your studies or maybe part-time job and things like that. So you become a different person. Maybe I have seen most of the students changing within a span of 6 months. So that's a great, great transition, and you will again love your new self because you will be feeling more independent and more confident. So that's about the reasons which I personally feel why students are, going abroad for. Now let's move on to the current challenges. So as we speak, the entire world is grappling with the coronavirus outbreak. This pandemic definitely is something we have not seen, our parents have not seen probably. So this has disrupted global supply and value chains, and I feel have pushed economies to the brink of recession. All businesses and sectors are struggling at all levels. Not even a single business you can talk about which is not affected. So education space, especially for those who were planning to study abroad, international universities are struggling, and they are facing different issues like what to do and planning to offer a lot of courses online. But from the students' point of view, I think there's a lot of uncertainty due to COVID. When the visas would open, when would we be in a position to travel, whether the campus is opening for fall intake or not, whether it's going to be safe to travel in spring intake. A lot of questions are there in students' mind. Then, of course, very limited options for international students. Some universities are offering online, some are still waiting. So it's again very confusing. Talking about Indian examinations, if you are in schools, of course, you must be aware, at least as far as CBSE and ICS are concerned, they're already canceled their exams, and different sort of things are happening. Some students are happy about it, some parents are not. So this is again not a very perfect situation for anyone. And then of course, unable to write standardized tests like SATs and things like that. I've heard IELTS, TOEFL, they are definitely planning to again offer it online. So hopefully that would be happening come August. But whole lot of confusion and uncertainty is there, which is not a great situation to deal with, especially at your age when you're very, very young. So I can totally relate to what you must be going through. So if you consider what are your options, for those of you who were wanting to continue their studies without wasting any time, you have two options. First is study online, and then second would be defer your plans. I am personally, again, my opinion, I would suggest the students to continue their studies without giving it a break, because you don't know, it's very uncertain when exactly you would be able to start your studies on campus. So it's better if your university where you apply it have given you an online option, just take it up. The other option definitely is to defer your plan, which is totally your decision, but I am more inclined towards, if you ask me, I'll suggest you to go online, because we should be adapting to the changes, and this is a change that universe is throwing onto us. So that is what it is all about. So let's go and talk a little more about the various advantages of online studies. So I've been talking to a lot of students, as I must have told you that I am in the industry, in the education industry for the last 22 years. I talk to a lot of students, a lot of parents, generally, especially now on regular basis, and most of them are very apprehensive about starting their study abroad. I'm aware you will have basically big dreams to go to a different country, must be excited to start your studies in a different environment, but the current situation is pushing you to basically, start or go in a different direction, especially for a while. So I'm assuming that if you are on one of those students, you must be toying with the idea of signing up for an online courses. So all I can say is that if you have taken face-to-face classes all your life so far in the school, being a little apprehensive or confused at the beginning is normal. So take it easy. And however, I still feel that taking an online course as opposed to face-to-face class has its own perks. And that's what I'm going to focus on right now. So again, I personally feel these are some of the advantages. Of course, first and the foremost, health is wealth. So if you are wanting to start your studies online, you will be studying in a safe and secure environment of your home, and everything would be fine. Your parents would be happy, you will be happy, and the moment situation improves, you can always opt to transfer to the main campus wherever you're wanting to go. The second advantage definitely could be the flexible schedule and environment, right? So by studying online, you choose your own learning environment. Some students like to study, sitting in the bedroom, you're in your bed and you're just listening to the lecture, or some might be more interested in going to the garden or the lawn, or maybe a cafe across the street, or things like that. So isn't that awesome? Like, it's really great option. I guess I had that option way back. But taking an online course also means that you don't have to commute to the class. So just imagine the kind of time you was, spending when you are in a city like Delhi or Mumbai or any of the metropolitan cities. It's too much, like an hour, sometimes more. So you will be saving on that time, and you can basically, study on your couch and devote more time on studying online. So that's definitely is one of the advantages of studying online, or starting online, to be very frank. A lot of people think, okay, if we are sitting at home, we are not getting to see people. How will we talk to them? How will we make friends? Especially people as young as you, who might be must have just turned 18, or, just, wanting to just go to the college. But online education also provides students with the chance to network with peers across the nation or internationally, right? So this often leads to other opportunities in terms of collaboration with other individuals in the implementation of various projects that you'll be doing together and things like that. There are a lot of group discussions which would be happening. You will surely be, networking with others. At the same time, it makes them, very culturally sensitive as well, to fit into different environments, and you get exposures to other cultures when you're talking to other students from different nations and within your country too. So yes, networking definitely is possible, and you will definitely be making new friends while you're studying online. The next advantage could be self-discipline and responsibility. So who says basically that having to be more self-disciplined is a disadvantage? It is true basically that studying online requires more self-motivation and time management skills, because you will spend a lot of time on your own without someone physically, close to keep you focused on deadlines and things like that. So just try to look at it this way, that your online course will not only teach you maybe geology that you're planning to do, or a management or a finance, it will also help you to become more self-motivated, a trait that will make you stand out in the workplace when you start, an internship probably, or a job later. It will definitely look great on your resume. Even if you're applying to different virtual internships, as you're calling it, it will definitely come handy. So you definitely can highlight that. Other reason is, or advantage is, effective use of your time. Studying online normally gives you a lot of flexibility. You can work and, you can study or pursue your hobbies around your coursework more easily. And be it going to gym or things like that, you can just manage yourself. Even more so if you are taking in asynchronous classes. For example, what is asynchronous? That you do not have to be available for a live session, but you can study and interact with your instructor and your fellow classmates at your own pace. For example, I'll quote an example. We have a platform called D2L, which is there for a long time. So we just upload the recorded lectures over there, and students listen to those lectures as per their own convenience. You don't have to be up as per the American time. So that's an advantage. And by the time you finish your online course, you will have gained more experience and learn new skills that will basically help advance your career, as I said before. And access to expertise, again, is one of the advantages, because you're sitting at home and you are getting to be, taught by best of the best faculties which a university have to offer. So just imagine getting that exposure while you are at home studying online. It's very much possible. Most of the universities would be letting the best teachers to teach you, so that there's clarity and you can definitely learn from their experiences and what they have to teach you. The other advantage is faster assessment. Like that's more from a university's perspective, but I think it's good for you as well because you don't have to wait for a long time for, let's say if you have given your assignment or things like that, because there's no paperwork involved, everything is online. So it's going to be very, very quicker. Faculties would hopefully be in a position to assess your work faster and definitely declare outcomes even faster than that. So this is how things would work if you're going for an advanced online studies. And of course, cost is definitely a huge factor. I know a lot of universities, including ours, who are planning to offer the online studies for a lower rate. Maybe like if you take about let's say Arizona's example, then we are offering the course online at $7,000 a year, as opposed to our normal fees, which is about $37,000 a year. So just imagine it's less than 1/4 of the cost for online. So this is how it works. You can definitely save your tuition fee till the time you are in this particular situation, and you can definitely save a lot of your living costs, or travel costs or things like that. So reduced cost is another advantage. And now, as I said, a lot of businesses and especially institutions definitely are going to go on the hybrid mode, which is basically a combination of your online and in-person classes. So that is going to be the future. So use this opportunity to learn or improve your skills to study through online and things like that. It would be really, really helpful. So this type of education definitely has grown over the last few years and has experienced basically mainstream acceptance as well, but even more so in this COVID era, I would say. With an online class, you can get to control your learning environment, which ultimately helps you to develop a deeper understanding of your course that you're doing. So new models of learning are always springing up in the market, in the education sector, providing students with a lot of opportunities to fashion their education into something that fits them, not the other way around. It also provides individuals an opportunity to finish a degree they might have started and were unable to continue with for one reason or another. So adapt to the change, guys, and pick online option to continue your studies rather than sitting back and not doing anything or waiting for the main campus classes to start. So this is something which you will definitely enjoy. I'm pretty sure about it. It's just a matter of you making a decision. And I'm sure then you'll start realizing how great online education could be. So yeah, these are the various advantages that I wanted to highlight. Now, since I am from University of Arizona, I would quickly take you through what we have to offer to you as a student. So to address the situation, University of Arizona has launched its global campus. We're calling it Arizona Global Campus in the month of May, wherein we are allowing students to start their studies online and study online for next 2 years here in India and then take a transfer. So it's not that you have to take a transfer after 2 years, but you can take transfer anytime within these 2 years and then transit it to the main campus. I'll come to the details a little later. But just to let you know, we are definitely in top 11 in US as far as online delivery of bachelor's degree is concerned. So it's a great ranking to look at. So a little bit about university. We were established in 1885 in a city called Tucson. So this is where we are. So you can see that red spot, that's the state of Arizona, and we are right here in Tucson. Phoenix is not far away, and of course, Grand Canyon, as you can see, must be in most of yours, bucket list. And we are next to state of California, which is like LA and San Diego, Vegas, France, San Francisco, everything is like nearby. In terms of ranking, we are 104th in the Times Higher ranking, 68th in the current QS rankings, For those of you who are interested in knowing, we are part of every planetary mission with NASA and fourth most awarded public university by NASA for research. How big we are having about 45,000 students, out of which 35,000 plus are undergrads from 120 different nationalities. 200 plus undergraduate majors on offer. It's a huge university, so about 17 schools and colleges, and we ensure that the quality is maintained, so the student to faculty ratio is about 22:1. About Tucson, of course, a combination of laid back and fast city, about 545,000 people, has been listed in top 10 cities to live in, and one of the most affordable cities in 2016 as well. The temperature for those who are in India, they will enjoy and they'll relate to because 18 to 24 during winter, which is ideal. And we say that we have 350 days of days filled with sunshine. That's how we talk about it. This is our beautiful, lush green campus. You can't even imagine this is in Arizona. This beautiful campus, and this is a perfect picture to tell you how you will feel when you are in the campus on a sunny day. Talking about popular majors, now this is based on the list I got for 2019 and 2018. So the students, especially from India, are wanting to go for these courses, and they are very, very strong for our STEM courses, let me tell you. When we talk about especially aerospace, astronomy, we have our own, observatory. So architecture, we are definitely good. When we talk about our business school, business management is really, really popular. Entrepreneurship, we are in one of the top in the country, MIS as well. For law, we were the first university in US to start law at undergrad level. Besides that, optical sciences and engineering has a huge scope in the state because all the lenses apparently from all over the world are basically exported through this state. So almost 100% job guarantee. Psychology, sociology, electrical and computer engineering. Computer science, we get a lot of students who are interested in pursuing studies in data science or information technology and things like that. So these are the various courses that we offer. You definitely can go to our website to know more about it, and we can always answer your questions a bit later. Our acceptance rate is about 84% in 2018, according to the US News data. This is again our old main building, which is from where we started in 1885. So what is the Arizona Global Campus? As I said, considering the current situation, we launched this pathway through which you can basically earn up to 2 years of University of Arizona credit at a university near you or fully online, and then finish your degree in the US. So basically, let's say if you're starting in fall intake now, you can study for 1 semester here and then take a transition to the main campus in spring. If you wish, you can start in spring intake or August, whenever you are ready. And then for the maximum 4 semesters, you can study in India, but then after that, you have to take a transition. So basically it means you can take a transfer after 6 months or a year, 1.5 years, or maximum 2 years, as and when you are ready and you are able to take a transfer to the university for any course. If you really want to know more about what all offers are there, how it would work and everything, you can visit our website, which is everywhere.arizona.edu. So while you're studying online in India, then you have 3 options. One, of course, studying online at home. Second would be to study at one of our partners, right? So we have in north of India, we have OP Jindal Global University. We've got a partnership with. To access to their labs, libraries, and things like that, you can visit the campus. On the third, or in South India, we have Amrita University, and they have 6 campuses across Bangalore, Chennai, Kochi, Mysore, Coimbatore, and Amritapuri. And the third option is for you to go to a co-working space. We have recently signed up with 91 Springboard. So let's say if your environment at home is not conducive for studies, you're getting a lot of disturbances or things like that, you can go to the co-working space, spend your entire time studying over there, maybe group of friends can be there together, just talk about something, study together, use the facilities available, free Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and then probably cafeteria as well. So you can do that too while you are studying online. I think it's a great option. We are giving you lots of options for the students to be comfortably choosing whatever they would like to. And I think Springboard has about 27 centers across the nation. How do we teach you? We teach you through this platform I told you earlier. It's called Desire to Learn. So basically you can complete it's asynchronous mode. So lectures are normally recorded so you can study at your own pace. Same syllabus is taught whether you are studying online or on campus. And same top-notch faculties would be teaching you as they were in the main campus in person. So again, a lot of learning would happen through assessments. You will be giving presentation, you'll be doing group work, all that would be happening, as I told you, within this particular platform. It's going to be really, really interesting. Now coming to the criteria of admissions, I'm sure a lot of you would be having questions like what exactly would it take for you to get into the university. So let me just tell you, for those of you who are wanting to start studies in undergraduate level, so we have two intakes, one in fall and the other one is spring. For those of you who are in class 12, if you are interested in applying, you can definitely do that. And we require last 3 years of coursework from high school. So let's say if you're in 12th, 9th, 10th, and 11th is needed in terms of mark sheet. Sorry. But if you have passed class 12, then we would be asking for 10th, 11th, and 12th mark sheet. So last 3 are required at the time of admission. We will be assessing your scores in there, and we would want a minimum of 3 GPA. Some schools or colleges might ask for a higher requirement, but generally it's about 3 on a scale of 4, which would equate to minimum 75%. But those of students who have gotten admission previously, their I think GPA was somewhere around 3.8 or 3.9 mostly. That's an average I have seen. So it's really great. The other question is whether SAT scores are required or not. So let me just tell you, SATs and ACTs are accepted, but it's not a mandatory requirement unless you're looking for scholarships. So even if you have taken SATs or ACTs, great, you can submit the scores to us and we'll assess while we are assessing your applications. In terms of other documentation, we need a personal statement and a letter of recommendation. As simple as that. Maybe biodata, if you really wanted to highlight your extracurriculars, we would accept that and we would be happy to assess that as well while giving a decision. And also let me just tell you, we're very quick in giving decisions, especially at undergrad level. Our team is like super responsive within a week maximum. But if they're busy, maybe maximum 2 weeks, but generally I've seen 5 to 10 days. They turn around the offer letter. In terms of English proficiency, of course, if you've not taken SATs, if you have taken SATs, then definitely we would not need you to write IELTS or TOEFL separately. But if you haven't, these are our scores. TOEFL minimum for most majors is about 70. For engineering, business, nursing, and law, etc., is about 79. For IELTS, 6. For engineering and business, etc., it's about 6.5. And we have also started, if you can see here, Duolingo. We have started accepting the Duolingo score as well. You can just download the app and you can write it. About 105 is ideal for us to consider. Now, this is a very common question I've been asked every time I speak to a student or a parent, which is obvious. But as I said, I've worked with a couple of British universities, a couple of Australian universities in the US, but I haven't seen this kind of scholarship scheme anywhere, So basically what we do is we try to offer the scholarships to the students who are outstanding, their performance have been great in last 3 years, and SAT. So both things are considered while giving an offer letter. So as you can see here, let's say if your SAT score is about 4 in this bracket, and your GPA is about this much, you will be getting 30,000 per year for next 4 years, as long as you maintain your GPAs. So same thing happens, let's say if it is 3.25 and your SAT is 15,000, 1,300 to 1,350, you'll be getting about $15,000 per year into next 4 years, basically. So it's a multi-year scholarship, not just for first year. So it's really, really great. And I think 9 out of 10 students who apply get scholarships in the university. So it's really great opportunity for most of the Indian students. Now coming to the CPT and OPT, a lot of students would be having questions if I start my online studies, whether it would be affected. So the answer is no. And what exactly is the difference between CPT and OPT is that, of course, the requirements, when we talk about CPT, basically, we are talking about doing this while you are studying. Okay, I'm sure you would be aware. But just to let you know, CPT basically gives international students a chance to gain employment or training and to get paid internships and things like that. So you will be having an opportunity to work full-time, more than 20 hours per week, or part-time, 20 hours per week. And you can earn in dollars and gain work experience in the area of your interest. But when we talk about OPT, OPT is definitely a temporary employment that is directly related to F1 students, major area of your study. So whatever you're majoring in, you have to work in that area. And it allows international students to work up to 12 months in relation to their area. But if you are a STEM student, you can apply for an OPT extension up to 24 months. So in total, about 3 years would be offered. So this is some general information. If you really want to go and find more, you can go to the consulate website and get more information on that. And how we help you get these CPTs or OPTs, or what are the job opportunities. So we have something called Handshake. It's an official job board, and if you're interested in getting an internship or you wanted to get yourself interviewed, you just contact them and they'll find on-campus opportunities or internships or even full-time jobs for students and alumni for next 5 years, I believe. So we have a huge network of our alumni as well, about I think 290,000 alumni across the world. We call them Wildcats. Virtual Life Lab, of course, this team basically would help you start some career exploration, or they will discover your strengths. Sometimes you're not aware, like, what am I good at? You normally end up asking your friends or your parents, your faculties, but this team would sit with you, help you realize what are your strengths and how to focus and highlight. So if you need help in updating your resume, because the way US companies look at your resume is totally different than what you make here. So you really need help, and they will prepare for your job interviews, or basically through mock interviews, and they'll set up job interviews as well. And they'll help you in crafting a covering letter and things like that. In terms of other events, we keep on having at least 3 to 4 times employees info session, career fairs, workshops are happening, throughout the year. So if you really need a job, you have to keep your eyes and ears open, and I'm sure you'll get it. And keep on performing well, definitely. This is, of course, I couldn't fit all the companies where our graduates are working, but some of the brands I thought you would be aware of. I tried, putting it here. I'm sure Goldman Sachs, GM, PepsiCo, DataLink, Walmart, Macy's, JP Morgan, IBM. Sorry, these might be the brands you would be aware of, but there are loads and loads of companies where our alumni are working throughout the country and the globe. So yeah, we've come to the end of the presentation. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take your questions. For those who really want to be in touch to know more about University of Arizona, these are my contact details. You can write to me at anjusingh@arizona.edu, and my WhatsApp number is 98184 9884. I'm sorry. Sorry. So yeah, that's about it. So I'm happy to take your questions now. How do we go about it?
Can you see me on? Hello?
Yes, very much. Yeah, very much.
I think some questions are posted in the Q&A box if you see them.
Sure, I'll just try to see those. Right. So what are the learning and career advantages of US bachelor's degree when compared to other countries? Of course, I have highlighted that already, you know, when we talk about the technology advancements and things like that, when it comes to research opportunities, of course, US is a country wherein everyone wants to go and, you know, explore various job opportunities and things like that. So I think I would not go much in depth as far as this thing is concerned. I've already explained there are a lot of career advantages, OPT and as one of them. Ultimately, if you're wanting to work over there and if you are going for studies, you will definitely get an opportunity to be there for as long as probably 3 years to continue working, bring that experience back to the country and start something of your own, or join a company over here or continue working over there, depending upon what all opportunities are available for you. So that way, US definitely has been a country wherein everyone wants to go. US still gets to the date maximum number of students who are interested in studying abroad. So yes, a lot of advantages over other countries when it comes to undergraduate or graduate studies. So the second question is, can you share about campus safety precautions, measures taken in the time of COVID? Yes, definitely. We have taken a lot of precautions. Of course, as I said, we are starting with the online. So we are, earlier we were planning to open the campus, but not anymore. We are thinking it's not really safe right now. So we are planning to ensure that people are, safe and they can start their studies from their home and things like that. A lot of precautions are being taken. We are ensuring that there's a minimum number of students in a particular class. We are ensuring that the messages related to the standard hygiene and how to maintain distance, wearing masks, sanitizing yourself, or a routine checkup and things like that are also planned right now. And a lot of tips are being shared in terms of how to prevent yourself from getting this deadly disease are there on our website and things like that. So we are just making sure that we can control the spread, and when the student join, it's been sanitized, and we have all sort of facilities available. Helpline, a special helpline has been launched as well, wherein if you have any issues, if you're feeling that you are sick, you can call, and all the health facilities would be made available to you quickly. So if you really want to know more about what we are doing, I can definitely share the link with you all so that you can look at it later. So I've just posted as an answer as well. Now, next question from Devanshi is, will classes online be as per US time, as per our time? So Devanshi, as I said, they are asynchronous. A lot of universities do not have the platform to teach you online, but we have something like that ready. It's called D2L, which is Desire to Learn. So that platform is used for asynchronous studies, which basically means that the lectures would be recorded. You can listen as per your own convenience, whenever you have time, whenever you are interested in studying. But when it comes to, let's say, group discussion and everything, again, all the facilities and platforms would be made available to you to connect with others too. So yes, the answer is, it's as per your convenience. So you can study whenever you want, wherever you want. As I said, from your home, either through our institutions, partner institution, or through our co-working space called 91 Springboard. Wherever you feel comfortable, go and take classes. Now, the next question is, would your online degree have the same cost of 7,000 across all majors? Ronit, Yes, the answer is, again, it is $7,000 per annum. That is $3,500 per semester for all the majors at undergraduate level. You know, so it's standard pretty much. So it's, I think, is the lowest. I've been just talking to a lot of my friends who work with various US universities. Half of them have not decided what to do. Half of them are offering like the same degree at the same cost, or maybe higher cost than what we are offering. I think amongst all, I feel we are offering it a very subsidized cost, keeping the situation in mind. People are struggling through their finances. You know, economic condition is not conducive right now. So I think considering all that, it's a great, great option for the students to pick it up. So I hope that answers your question. The answer is yes. I'm an IB diploma student, would you still require TOEFL? Well, as I said, most of the time student would be writing their SATs or ACTs. So if you have done that, which I would suggest, might as well take, because I'm sure you would be looking at some sort of scholarship, Fahad, then in that case, it wouldn't be required. So answer is no, but if you still want to go ahead and write, it's totally your, you know, wish. So Sia asks, what would be the chances of visa approval if you stay here for 2 years and then transfer to main campus? Of course, so far, let me just tell you one thing. I've been talking to university officials and they said like there's hardly any rejection so far for University of Arizona University, because it's a premium institution, high ranked university, only serious students come here. Our criteria of admissions are very high. We are very careful in choosing our students. So probably that's the reason the visa success rate is really, really high. And in fact, let me just update you. A few weeks back, we were having a meeting with the consulate and the minister said, and I had a specific question. I said, if my students are going to University of Arizona, what are the chances of getting visas? So I'm just telling, based on their feedback, he said, first of all, we will sensitize our team, the visa officers sitting there, that those who have started online, they are very, very serious towards their studies. So definitely they are the more serious student. As long as you do well in your interviews, your finances are in place, you're honest about everything, I don't think so that should be an issue, right? So I hope that answers your question, Sia. So it should be all right, as long as you're a good and honest student. The next question is from Aditi. Is OPT going to be for 1 year, even if we complete a semester or a year for our undergrad program online? I'm planning to pursue a business major and a major in political science. So when we talk about OPTs and things like that, of course, it is going to be for a year, whether you, as long as you're studying in US for at least 1 year, it should be fine. So your online studies here wouldn't, you know, basically make any difference. If you start your study online and take a transition later, it wouldn't affect your OPT time. So that's for sure. That is what I know. Devanshi, can you also share a breakdown of main campus tuition, housing, meal, and other expenses at the university? Okay, so of course I told you online is 7,000 per annum. For tuition fee in the main campus is 3,716 per annum. The living cost is somewhere around 14,000, though it's on a higher side. We know that. It should be somewhere around 12 to 14,000. Insurance about 2,500 odd. And some registration fee of 500 odd. So in total, everything comes out to be $54,000 per year, average expense when we talk about on campus. But if you get a scholarship, let's say our fees is 37,000. If you get a scholarship of 30,000, you're just paying 7,000 per year on the main campus, or if you have less. So that's how it basically works. So yeah, all in all, if you don't have any scholarship, which is really rare, doesn't happen only, would be 54,000 would be your expenses in total. And of course, extra would be your travel cost too, which might be another couple of thousand here and there. Fahad asks, from an admission and scholarship point of view, can you share how each item weighs in terms of importance? Transcript, test scores, okay. So when we talk about admissions, I have been in regular touch with our admissions team. First and the foremost is definitely your GPA from the school. It's really important, right? For you to score well in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever you are going to submit. But let's say mostly I've seen in class 11 or, students tend to be a little less serious. They end up, scoring less. So in that case, in the application form itself, there's a space wherein, we ask you to justify the reason for not scoring up to the mark. So if you justify that, you should be fine. But yes, GPA is the first and the foremost. At the same time, we do look at your biodata, any extracurricular activities that you have. We will definitely like to look at that. And one point which I forgot to mention was that we have more than 600 clubs and organizations. So if you're really high on, you're really wanting to get into athletics, sports, we are very, very huge on that. We have 3, I think, swimming pools, huge gyms, playgrounds, shooting, tennis, football, baseball, whatever you ask for that, you will get it, because the campus is huge, really. So yeah, so it's basically GPA and then SATs. A combination of that works for you for scholarships. For admission, SATs are not that important or mandatory, but GPA is definitely the first thing. And maybe then your extracurriculars and everything come into picture. But make sure that you're performing very, very well in your studies, because we are very academic university and we like students to do well in their studies, and that's the only way we can judge you, sitting here in terms of your academic performance, because we wanted to ensure that you keep on performing well when you join us. So that is a parameter for us to judge it. So we are unable to see your email address. Can you share again? Okay, sure. I think, sending to all in the chat box so that you get it. My name, my email ID, and I can share my number too. I'll be happy to talk to you or WhatsApp me. So just for those of you who are interested in still, like maybe few of you have not applied, interested in fall intake, we are still open till 15th of July. We are accepting applications. So if you really want to, let's say your university is not offering the option to start the course online, or if they are offering the course at a highest price or things like that, and you wanted to try at Arizona, definitely go ahead and apply. And just to let you know, if at all you wanted to a next university, but they don't have an option, if you start here, you can always take these credits to the other university as well. Though we would want you to be with us and we want you to continue study with Arizona, that option is always available. So I hope you have got all your answers. I tried my best based on whatever knowledge and experience I have. So I tried my best. I hope you found it informative. Kunal, do we have anything else to address?
Yes, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We have one more question that has come in.
Sure, tell me.
If you can just kindly see in the chat box, is one student who has written about that in the Q&A box.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sorry. I just didn't see that.
No problem. No problem. Thank you.
Would internships and career opportunities be available in India for the first year or two? Also, if you go to one of the India tie-up? Well, that is something, it's a little too far-fetched, I would say, like, because the time was really less, we could just tie up with them for students to access various facilities and things like that. But if you're really interested in internship, I could say the best option for you would be to go to this co-working spaces, 91 Springboard. If you guys, Google, I'm not too sure where are you from, but if you are from one of the metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, or Bangalore, they have 3 to 4 centers everywhere. So if you go there and if you understand the concept of co-working spaces, they allow startups to flourish. So you will get a lot of contacts for the people who are starting their startups, or maybe an entrepreneur who is just starting. He will be having a lot of contacts, and you can use those spaces and those connections, because the idea is to go there and talk to people, make friends, be a part of their community. So it's just not limited for you to go and study. We are providing you an environment where you can connect, make more friends. They are doing their own, like some sort of like functions or celebrating festivals. Be a part of this and become a part of the 91 Springboard facility or family. Then through these connections, I'm sure you will be in a position to explore what all internship options are available, where you can go to find jobs or go for virtual internships and things like that. So, and even if you want to go to the partner institutions, be it Amrita or OP Jindal, definitely go there, because we are facilitating you to go to access their labs, libraries, make friends, or be a part of the student community. So definitely you can always go and drop into their centers and ask what all is available, how they can help, though we have not formally talked about it. But it's a great question, and I think this is something to ponder, and we would be in a position to probably talk about it, but maybe at a little later stage, because too much is going on right now. A lot of changes. Nobody was prepared for that. Nobody was ready for this situation. So we are just reaching there step by step. Allow us time. If we have some more update, we will definitely be posting through our website or through Konal, or if you're in touch, or if you have my email ID now, so just try to reach out to me, drop me an email separately. We can always have a one-on-one Zoom call session to answer any question that you or your parents might have.
Great. Thank you so much for that. To the attendees, please, there's a quick poll that you will be seeing on your screens coming on right now. We humbly request you to please participate in that. And I'm just going to wait for another 10 seconds or 15 seconds before I come. I think Anju's come online, so I think I do also want to come online. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Great to hear that. So I'm just going to wait for another 5 seconds because I'm sure Miss Anju Singh is busy and she has other appointments and engagements as well, and we need to be respectful of her time too. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to share the results with everyone on screen so you can see it. Anju, can you see it?
Yeah, 100%. I'm really happy.
Yeah, great to see that as well. So, thank you to all the attendees for joining us late in the evening, and also thank you very much to Ms. Anju Singh for joining us today. We really appreciate your kind time and support in the Knowledge at KPD Admissions 101 workshop series. Students, I'm going to be online for the next few minutes because I know Ms. Anju Singh has shared her contact details. So, in case you haven't penned it down, this is your chance to pen it down. And we sincerely look forward to keeping in touch with you, Ms. Anju. Truly appreciate your kind time. And to the students, we appreciate your kind support as well and wish you a wonderful evening to both, of course, our wonderful esteemed panelists and the attendees today. So that's a cap for today's session. I wish you a good day and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much,
Thank
Anju.
you. Good night, everyone.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Thanks.
Take care.